back to my channel. This is Christina at Homeschooling Grace, and today I'm excited to share with you 5 tips on how to homeschool multiple children. If you're new here, we are a family of 7. We have 5 daughters, ages 10 down to 1. There's 10, 7, 5, 3, and 1 years old. We have our own little women. So I wanted to share with you how we homeschool with so many children and how we make it work in our home. So my number 1 tip for homeschooling multiple children is to have a plan. My best tip for that would be to pick a curriculum that lays it out for you. If this is your first time homeschooling and you're not sure where to start, pick a curriculum that it lays it all out for you. So again, if you're new here, we use My Father's World as our core curriculum for all my children, and it's so nice because it's totally laid out for you. So this has been used with multiple children. But see, it gives you day by day what to do. Now for some that might be overwhelming. For me, it worked out beautifully because I could just go down the list of what we needed to get done. And especially as a first-time homeschooler, I needed my hand to be held to walk through it. And even now, this is our 4th year homeschooling. It's so nice to just be able to open each of my teacher's manuals and be like, okay, this is what we're doing today. And I just go down the list for each of my children. And I am homeschooling right now 4, and I do that each day. And I have my plan, and it makes it so much easier for me. Tip number 2 is to have a routine. I'm gonna link up here, or up here, I'm not sure, a video where I shared how we block schedule. The best way to homeschool with multiple children is to have a routine. It does not have to be a perfect schedule with every hour marked out, but you want to have some kind of idea of how you want your school day to go. If your family wakes up early and you want to get school done right away, and that's how it works best for you, then make sure you have your routine written out so that everyone knows what is expected of them. If you are an afternoon schooler, which we typically are more of, then make sure you have your routine written out for the afternoon of what the expectations are. It just helps everyone to be on the same plan and for the kids to know what they're supposed to be doing, because if every day is different, it's going to be hard to get everyone motivated to do school at school time. And if you just have it in your head and they don't know it, you might get more pushback than if everyone is on the same page for when it's time to do school. Okay, tip number 3, fill buckets. You're probably like, fill buckets? What in the world does that mean? Okay, if you're homeschooling multiple children, that means that you're gonna have littles and you're gonna have olders. Well, the best way that I have learned to make homeschooling with so many work is that I fill each bucket. So I teach, I'm gonna get all their books. Okay, so to fill buckets, you wanna start out with, typically, if you're going to be homeschooling preschool age, filling the youngest buckets first. So that means you're actually pouring into them. You're pouring that time in. You're giving up your time that you may want to be doing with your older kids, but you need to spend time with your littles so that their little buckets are filled up and they're okay to go spend independent time on their own. So the best way that we have done that is we literally teach preschool. All aboard the animal train. This is my youngest. Then I do Voyage of Discovery. Sometimes I do her this grade first and then this one. But they each have their own book and they love it. So my biggest tip is to homeschool preschool because they love it. They get so excited. They ask me constantly, can we do school? Can we do school? And it's that one-on-one time with them. So back to my routine, I do teach them individually right now, especially at these younger ages, because it fills up their buckets and they feel like they're so special because they get that one-on-one time with mom. Okay, so my youngest 2 go first. In the afternoon, my oldest, school is getting harder. It doesn't necessarily fill buckets unless you can find pieces that they love. My 4th grader loves history, so I gotta make sure we get to the history portion because that does fill her bucket. She loves it. My 1st grader, she doesn't necessarily love the history as much, but math. She loves math. If I fill her bucket for math, then she does school. She's much happier to get through school. And If she gets through her hard part and then we go to math, then she is super happy at the end of school because she got to do her math. Okay, so that is filling their buckets during school, and I'm gonna add some more to that later, but we're gonna move on now to tip number 4. Tip number 4 is lower your expectations. If you're homeschooling multiple children, every single box is not going to get checked off, and every day is not going to necessarily look the same. That's why I say for tip number 2 is to have a routine, because you will not be able to keep a perfect schedule every day. You're going to have to be willing to make accommodations for things that happen. With so many children, you're going to have lots of appointments. You're going to have to be able to maybe do school on the road or at a doctor's office or at nighttime or while babies are napping, or you're going to have to fit things in at different times that you wouldn't normally. We do most of our read alouds at lunchtime, especially our picture books, because I like to make sure that I read to them picture books, but if I'm hungry, I don't necessarily get to eat at the same time as them because I'm reading. Another tip for lowering expectations is wherever you do school, it might be a total mess. Your house might be a mess. I feel like when we are in session for school during the school year, my house is not necessarily perfectly clean. My dishes are not always done. There is laundry to be done. There are rooms that are messy. Floors that need to be vacuumed and mopped, because I feel like when I'm teaching them school, it's kind of my full-time job during the year, and then when we have breaks, then I can obviously do more and the house can stay a little tidier. But during school time, it's school time, and so I have to lower my expectations for things outside of school. Sometimes we have to say no to play dates if we need to just get school done, which I know is like, you don't do that if you're homeschooled, because you have the time, you can make it up elsewhere. But back to having a routine or a plan, I like to end the school year by the 1st of June so that we can have our summer. I love to be outside for summer, and I don't want to feel like I still have, or the kids still have work to be done. I want to close the books and put them away. So that is my tip for lowering expectations. Okay, last tip, tip number 5, study your children. Back to filling their buckets, another great way when you have multiple children is to study them, and not in a weird way. You study them to know their personalities, what their likes and dislikes are, how do they feel loved. I know there's a book called 5 Love Languages for Children. I have not read it, but I feel like it could help if you don't know your child's love language. Once you have studied them, then you can fill their buckets. And so I have some children that are extroverts. I have some that are introverts. So my ones that are extroverted, they like to talk a lot to me. So I have to be willing to make that time for them. And I've learned that by studying them and knowing my children. Another way is for my introverted children is to spend that quality time with them in other ways. Maybe it's drawing with them or coloring with them. Maybe it's just sitting by them. They don't necessarily need to talk as much. Maybe it's learning a skill together. I have one daughter who was taking piano lessons, but it got to be too much for her. And so, especially having a teacher that wasn't me. And so we decided that I would become her teacher because I at least know the basics, and it helped her to feel like she was being accomplished, but it was more in an intimate setting. She didn't have to fear new people seeing her if she failed, because sometimes we don't want others to see us fail. I think a lot of times, I think that's pretty normal. Another way to study your children is to see what their likes are and dislikes. If you have a child that loves video games, instead of pushing and saying, no video games, because you don't like them or you think they spend too much time, maybe you need to sit with them and play the game with them. Maybe it's going outside and playing basketball with them. Another way to study your children is just asking, what do you like to do? What would you like to do with me? What would you like to do with Dad and I? Bringing Dad in on it. And again, that all goes back to then filling their buckets. Once you've studied your children, you can fill their buckets, which then will make school go more smoothly because they will feel like they are well taken care of in that area. So this was a quick and short video. I hope it was helpful for you to get some tips on how to homeschool multiple children. I know it can be hard and intimidating, but also remember, when you are homeschooling so many, if you're starting in the beginning, you normally start with one, and then then you go to 2, and then 3, 4, 5. So it's not all at once. Typically, there are other cases where you bring them home and you just start homeschooling all of them. But I think that would be a different video. So thanks so much for stopping by, and here's some other videos to check out, and we'll see you at the next one. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.